Poured to the cloud. All right, well, welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours. My name is Jared Kingston. I am a solution architect with Aperio, and I'm joined today by one of my fearless co-leaders in Jackie Travieso. Jackie, you want to say hi?
Hey everyone, it's good to see your names on the list, and I look forward to hearing your voices shortly with all of your questions. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome, thank you. And we also are helped out by our friend in local Kansas City and with me, Dale Ziegler. If this is your first time to MVP Office Hours, one of the first things we like to do is give a overview of a lot of the events that are coming up within the community. And as you can see there, we've got quite a slew of community-led events that are coming up. There's world tours going on right now. I think New York is in a couple weeks on the 26th, and I'm planning on attending that one. There's several other ones that are happening, and then Dreamforce is like, holy smokes, it's close in September, at least it feels that way. But the Dreamin' events, as you can see there, basically we've expanded to what feels like every state or definitely every region. So check them out. If they're close, I recommend making it happen. It's a great event to network, to learn from fellow Salesforce community members, and just great events all around. So definitely check those out. I'm planning on hitting up a few of these myself and hope to see you guys out there. All right, so just a quick overview of what MVP Office Hours is for those who are maybe new, or just a refresher for those who've been on. We hold this the first and third Friday of every month, so our next call will be on 4/20. And so put it on your calendars, mark it down. We're always going to hold it first and third Friday. And if we don't, we'll let you know. Registration, we've made it easy for you. If you just bookmark that link, we'll update it with the new dates after each session. So you can keep that handy to sign up for each one. And then it's an open Q&A discussion. So, any questions you have around how should I approach this solution, or I'm having this issue, or I'm looking for a resource, whatever it may be, no questions too small. Please ask. We're here to help. And we will post the community, or the recording, out to the community, out to our Twitter handle that's at MVP Office Hours. And because we're recording and we're trying to listen to answers and questions, we just ask you mute your line whenever you're not speaking so that we can hear things clearly. If you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand in the meeting, or you'll hear us from time to time ask for people to chime in and ask questions. So feel free to chime in at those points. And just announce yourself. I mean, we can see in the meeting who it is, but it's also good to kind of hear you say your name with the voice. And everyone's welcome to share experiences, right? We have MVPs on the call, but look, we're all, in this together, if you will. So if you've run across something that you think may help answer a question, feel free to jump in. That's what this is for. And then we'll use the chat to post, resources, links. If you have resources, links, post them out there as well. And we'll also record those through the call so that we can send those out for later use. And then what we've been doing recently is with the new Zoom product we're using, it's a lot easier for us to allow you to share your screen. So if there's something you're like, hey, I want you to walk through it. I mean, we walk through flows, through page layouts, you name it. So, if it's something like that, we're happy to pass over the controls and let you walk us through it. So I think I covered that I do want to say before we get going that, as a reminder, we have the MVP Office Hours is global, and we have a site out there run by Salesforce Communities, and it's mvpofficehours.info. You'll find all the information you need out there. We have it, here in the U.S. This one we have EMEA, APAC, Portuguese, students. So we have a lot out there, and so check those out. You can go out there and sign up for our email distribution list. Jackie sends that out for each one, so you get that reminder to sign up. And then we also, it also has a link to our YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to YouTube, make that part of your weekend plans to watch the recording from each Friday session. So a lot of information out there, so I encourage you to hit that up. Anything that I missed, Jackie?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
To encourage everyone to participate.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get this party started. So who wants to kick us off with the first question?
Come on, guys. Don't be shy.
Jen, you've got your hand raised. Go for it.
I have a question. I'm not sure if we get an answer, but I can ask a question.
Absolutely. And then we'll come back to Jen. Jen, you're going to need to unmute yourself, but go ahead. Who's asking the question now?
This is Igor.
Hi, Igor.
Yeah, come on, Igor.
Oh. So a question revolves around something I recently bumped into. In spring 18, Salesforce has released a calendar functionality that can be exposed in communities as well as internally. But looks like it has very, very little usage at this point because the sharing on this calendar is really, really not up to par. In fact, it's actually almost difficult to impossible to share records, especially if you have a certain restricted license, like a login user, for example. So they have not done a lot of work in that. So I wonder if any of you have run into a calendar functionality in any customers, and any of you have seen or tried this to do this before. Essentially, idea would be, or some of the use case would be that as an internal user of a Salesforce full license, a CRM or a Service Cloud, I would create an event on my calendar in Salesforce, and I would like to share it out to the community with certain users of the community, like my partners, for example, or customers, or just some people that are logging into the community for whatever reason. So they can have either come into webinar or come and join for the specific call to discuss certain problems, right? And so that's what I see. There's a disconnect, even though they say it works, but actually it doesn't. So any experience you can share would be useful.
I don't have any experience in that, but there is a name that comes to mind that if I had this question, the person that I would reach out to is Phil Weinmeister. He's the master of communities.
Okay.
And I'll put his name in the chat so you have the correct spelling, but he would be the person that I would ping and say, hey, do you know anything about this? Because communities is his thing.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I was at Trailhead X last week, and I had a fortune to bump into a product manager of a calendar, as well as product manager in communities. And we kind of discussed this to some degree. And then they went ahead and asked their team, particularly in the community side. And the developers from community kind of responded to me, said, well, unfortunately, this functionality is not supported at this point in time. So I found work around it in a way, like a bit of a hacky way to do this. But just wondered if anybody knew it, but certainly would like to ping that person and find out.
Yeah, and just so I make sure I'm understanding, this is Jared. So it's all around sharing the calendar and specific the events.
Yes. Yeah, and part of it revolves around the fact that if you have a login user, they're not allowed to own any activities or events. They won't be able to be owners of that. So it is only possible to do as a custom like a custom object that link into a calendar, which is okay. Can do that, but then even that becomes a little bit difficult to share. So.
Yeah, that's it. And I've seen the same thing. I mean, I've seen the same thing, and that's where community project we had to build a custom object and some custom parameters on that object to help with the sharing piece. So definitely experienced the same there. So, but yeah, Phil would definitely have some potential more insight in there. I mean, the calendar thing in general, right, is at least the component is pretty new to communities, right? So I think that's probably part of the issue, is that it's just
I was explained by basically the way it was explained to me by the product manager is that actually the people that work and build the calendar, those are mostly focused on the internal users. And a community team took the calendar and actually modified some things or add some things to it to expose it to the community. And it wasn't like all of the functionality wasn't like all mashed up together, because there's two separate teams working on the same component. So it seems to be like it's like almost like half baked in a way.
Yeah.
But very useful functionality, though. We're certainly try to do something like that, and they ultimately recommended me. One of the options is just go in, get an AppExchange open source calendar, which they have from Salesforce Labs, and then you can code your way around this problem. Which is, yes, I can do that, but I would like to do it declaratively if I could, or at least have my admins do it.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm hoping they will continue to add a lot more functionality there, because like I said, right now today we've just had to build custom things or reusable pieces that we can use on it, because it's not all the controls are just quite there yet for that scenario.
So make sure that you go out to the Idea Exchange and log that as a request, and then socialize that so people will vote on it, and it'll get the exposure.
Already done.
Perfect. All right. Well, share that link with us so we can all vote on it for you.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right. Awesome. Are we ready to move on to Jen?
Yeah, let's go to Jen. Jen, go for it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I can ask after this question, right? When other people I can ask one, and then when other people, when I can get another turn after.
Absolutely,
sure.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to know what your recommended best practice would be if I have a SQL table or a stored procedure. I want to bring that data into Salesforce without using an ETL, if there's any way to do it.
All right. Well, let me ask this question before somebody jumps in. Are you wanting to bring that in just like on a one-time basis, or are you wanting to bring it in, on a batch, like scheduled basis?
Scheduled basis. Or would you even recommend, not having that ETL?
Can you clarify a little bit? Your question was about, you have a SQL store procedure, let's say, assuming you have some Oracle database, and so you have some SQL store procedure that returns certain data set, and that is exactly the data set of record you want to bring into Salesforce on a regular basis. I see.
Correct.
Okay.
Not Oracle, SQL.
Oh, SQL Server, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would say, right, is like to do something on a scheduled basis, you're looking at using a tool, something like Jitterbit. The Jitterbit data loader is something you could use, because you can schedule loads there. I know there are ways to essentially write custom loads using like the data loader to run a a scheduled load. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that given the tools that are out there that can, do it more, declaratively from a setup standpoint. But that would be my recommendation, is to look at something like a Jitterbit for something like that. I don't know if anybody else has any.
Would I be able to do it using a REST API or no?
Well, if you're doing a REST API, you're doing a lot of, you can do that, but it will be a lot of custom code on both ends. So you have to use Apex and be able to call something on the batches schedule process to hit that database periodically. And then you also have to have services on the other end of SQL Server to be exposing that as a service. So there's I would say it's probably not worthwhile, as if you probably could do something with DBAMP or some type of a tool, which is you have to pay a license fee, obviously. But that'll probably be a simpler, quicker solution unless you don't have any of the tools.
Okay. Well, I don't have one right now, but I'm trying to explore what tools would be best.
So other ones to look at would be Informatica, and I think demand tools as well. So when you start, demand tools. So when you start looking at what your use case is and what your requirements are, and you compare, there's at least 3 of them right there. If you go to the App Exchange, you can do a search and find. I know that there's more, but those are the 3 that I always hear about.
Okay.
And I'll put those in the chat.
Yeah, so I would say this, one thing that to be aware of, depending on how critical this issue is for you, since acquisition of MuleSoft, there's this integration pieces that are coming. And MuleSoft certainly can do that for you. I just don't know how long that will take or what sort of functionality they will be exposing to Salesforce licensed users. That could potentially be a very simple solution in the future, maybe near future, because MuleSoft can do it right now, but I don't know as far as how Salesforce would be, like how it will be licensed to the end user.
I did see that MuleSoft, but I'm like, well, I don't know. I've got to look at how long it's going to take. But thank you.
Technically it's possible because we have a MuleSoft as our integration platform, and so we're using that. We actually do call procedures there and do all other things with databases and Salesforce. So that I know that it is technically possible. It's just not clear how these licenses would go. We have obviously been using MuleSoft for a while, but these new acquisitions, it takes time.
Yeah, I've used Informatica and Cast Iron, and I was just wondering if there's any other better alternatives, or if there's REST API is simple enough or not. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. See, we have another question here in the chat from Scott. Doesn't sound like Scott has a mic at the moment, so we'll read this off here. He's asking what the difference is between a standard Salesforce license and a platform license, and how platform licenses are allocated. Read through some of the descriptions and looking for some guidance here. So I would say, first and foremost, I always just say talk to yourself. It sounds like a cop-out, but really it's talk to your Salesforce rep to get the clearest and right answer there. I don't know if anybody else has any firsthand knowledge of that wants to speak up, but go ahead. Somebody has the thought there.
I'm posting, this is Jackie, I'm posting a link, Scott, to an answers discussion about the differences.
This is Carla, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have some firsthand knowledge on the differences between the license types. I actually just implemented some platform licenses here in my org. Um, there is an awesome data sheet out there that Salesforce puts out. Talks about the differences with the Lightning platform licenses. It depends on if you have Enterprise Edition or Unlimited Edition, what kind you can get. So it gets kind of granular, but the main difference is that the platform licenses don't have access to Sales Cloud functionality. So you don't have access to cases or not cases, I'm sorry, leads, opportunities, campaigns, and things of that nature. It's very high level, but that's the main differences between the two. You get a certain amount of custom objects that you can access as well. So if you just get the lower edition of the platform license, you can only have access to 10 custom objects, but the higher standard of platform license, you get 110 custom objects you can have access to. So kind of have to look at all the little granularities and the differences between the two, but I'll try to find a link to the Salesforce data sheet that describes the differences. I found it helpful.
Yeah. I think I can add one thing to that is on platform licenses, I think it's kind of important to consider use case. What are you trying to do with it? And my experience has been people who want to use platform licenses or go for a big bulk of platform licenses, they have a specific goal where they're interested in building custom applications on top of Force.com, whether that's Lightning, Force, Visualforce, whatever they want to do, Apex. That's really what their core desire is. So they don't really care about services, Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, all these different clouds. They don't care. They just want to use Salesforce as a main platform and leverage some of the features. That's usually the business goal for that. But if you have a mixture of, hey, I want to use Sales Cloud, I want to use sales processes, but I also want to leverage some custom code, it's good to have a mix of both then. I've seen customers doing a good kind of a mix for like external customers. They would use some of these licenses to build some of these functionality, or even for internal like business units, they'll build certain custom applications. But that's usually when you have a development team involved who wants to build custom code.
Those are great explanations. Thank you.
I would second that as well.
Awesome. If you find any links, we'll be sure to drop the. Oh, good. You've got one in here, Carla. Thank you. We'll drop that into the PowerPoint that Jared's running.
Awesome.
Jen, are you ready for your second question?
Well, if nobody else wants to ask, I can ask.
Please go ahead.
Okay. It's very basic, so don't kill me, everybody, if it's like, oh my gosh, it's so basic. Why is she asking this question? But I wanted to know on the split settings for opportunities, is there a way that I can restrict, like I can choose specific team roles that will get the split? And like certain team roles won't get added to the opportunity split.
Does anyone have an experience with splits? And are you on Classic or Lightning, Jen?
Classic.
Okay.
Not yet on Lightning. I'm hoping next year.
We might have to do a little research there for you if nobody on the line has some.
Ask the question again one more time. Make sure I understand.
I'm using opportunity splits, so as the owner, I get automatically added to the split. We're not automating anything else, but I would like that to be able to say if there's more than one team member, automate how they get added to the split based on their role, on their team role, on the opportunity.
Do you have some standard criteria by which, if this could be automated, you would have like a standard recipe for that?
What?
Deciding who you want added when.
Oh yeah, that's just the sales reps.
Jared, is that something that you can do using Process Builder?
Yeah, potentially. That's what I was just trying to think through of like ways you could do that. And I know we have opportunity splits in our org, so I was trying to see how we do it.
Because if not,
Are you using it? Are you populating it automatically, or are your sales teams like adding it manually?
So I think we're populating it automatically. So I'm not the system admin. I'm not sure, but exactly.
Okay.
But from what I've seen, the way it works is I think we're populating automatically, and I think it's based upon certain roles because, like, I myself as a solution architect may get added to an opportunity team, but I'm not added to a split on that opportunity. But if
Right.
say another account executive or salesperson is added to that, right, they would get a split added. So so there's something we're doing there to
Okay.
do that. So, but yeah, I mean, I would think you should be able to do it like with Process Builder. So if an opportunity team member
Yeah.
is created, right, and it's of a certain role, we'll add them as a split, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I thought about that, but sometimes the Process Builder I found has a lag time.
so I'm not sure the last time you've used it, but it's certainly sped up. If you have a lot within that one, within a one transaction, yeah, definitely it's gonna. There's certainly lag, but I've noticed it's gotten faster
Okay.
over time. So
Okay.
so that'll be my thought. Yeah, I was just googling it here too to see what.
I just wanted to see if there was, because if it was just a setting or if it was something I had to build out of Process Builder, and I'm like, which one is it? I didn't want to do the Process Builder if it was just a setting. So I didn't want to overkill it since it was just a split. Thank
You
you.
don't know. Have you looked at the team that there's a team selling implementation guide that has like teams and splits in there?
Oh,
I don't know if you've.
no.
I'll paste this in here into the chat.
Okay.
This is updated as of summer 17, so not too far behind, but this may help. I was just looking through it here. It may have some good information in there around that. So
Thank you.
yeah. Awesome. Who else has a question? Great start to the call. And in case you missed it, thanks Igor for posting those ideas in there. Everyone go check out those ideas, build them up, get those suckers to the top. All right, who's next?
if there aren't any questions, has anybody used a new app or a new functionality recently that they would like to share with the group?
I have a question. It's me again.
Go ahead, Jen.
What's the difference between an opportunity and order? When I started in Salesforce, it was just opportunity. And I kind of veered away from the admin configuration. And then they had orders. And now I'm back to configuration and all that. And I'm like, what's the difference? When would you use an opportunity versus an order?
Jared, have you used orders?
A little bit. So basically, the way to think about it, right, is an order. The way Salesforce views an order and the way it's set up is an order is essentially a subset of the opportunity, right? So an opportunity is that full deal, and then an order is, essentially, I kind of think of it as like almost like child opportunities in a way, but Salesforce doesn't treat them like opportunities, right? But it's that sort of mindset of I'm placing a subset of whatever's in that opportunity within the order. So I could sign up or sign a deal for an opportunity, but then I may place like multiple orders as a part of that, and that's really and so an order has to live under an opportunity.
Okay.
Well,
Does that help?
that's part of the data modeling sort of trick. There's order and order line items they have, and these play role in field services a lot, depending on what order may mean. Actual field service order to go out to do something that somebody made a request, and then also it means that somebody purchased something too.
That's right.
Oh,
Good call.
okay. That makes sense now with the order and using field service. Okay.
Yeah, it's not just for field service. You could use it for other type of commerce. If you are very good at handling your product hierarchies in Salesforce. In our case, for example, we do not, so that's kind of sucks. But so we don't use it. But in other customers and other people that are able to manage price books and manage good a product hierarchy, kind of as a product catalog within Salesforce, that comes in very handy.
Okay. So we actually have jobs come out of our opportunities. So I could potentially use that then.
Yeah, potentially.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll actually pose a question. I'm not sure if anybody has dove into this, but I was doing it this week and was a little stumped. So it has to do with the flow, putting a flow component on a Lightning page. Basically, I've got a flow that starts with a fast, it starts with a fast lookup, and it goes to try to retrieve some related records from an account. Basically, in this case, it's opportunity products that are related to an account's opportunities. What's interesting is it works fine if I launch it from a button. It grabs the ID just fine, and everything works. However, if I embed it if I use that flow component within Lightning Experience, in my screen, I have a dynamic choice within the flow screen, and no records show. And I'm even filling in like the account ID variable for like within the component setup on the page. So I'm just not sure if I can find any specific documentation that's like, hey, you've got to, start. You can't just like start here with it. It has to like do something first before it can go, fetch a list of records. I'm not sure if anybody's messed with embedding a flow into Lightning yet or not. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
I'd call Mark Ross or Brian Kwong.
Yeah.
Is this based on a record? Like you want to start a flow with a specific record ID? I'm assuming it's not like you're searching for stuff, but you're starting it from like a record page, or
Yes.
is it from home page?
Yeah, it's starting from the account page, and I really only need the account ID to go find, these products. And so that's what my filter works on, which that's why I'm confused, because I'm filling it within the component setup. I'm passing, or at least it says that I'm passing my account ID into my variable within the flow, but yet that first screen of the flow, the dynamic choice doesn't populate or doesn't show anything.
Yeah, I would look into the flow and which variable naming you're using there, and also what are you passing in, because there might be a situation where your flow is using a particular variable. I think there should be, I don't remember documentation, but there should be documentation how you suck in the variable from outside, which means your flow is sitting inside a component. Component provides you a little variable and it has a specific name within a component. It probably has a name of like record ID, most likely. And so if your flow has exactly the same name, then you should be okay. But if you're using a different name for that record ID, like different spelling of it or something like that, then you might not be able to find it inside the flow and it gets into through component.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what's weird is like I said, I can launch it from a button and fill that variable just fine. But yeah, it's when I set it up in the component that something seems
right. That's what I'm saying is that when you do it from a button, then you kind of automatically get it from environment, or you actually passing in when you kind of like as a link into it. But when you do it within a component, your flow doesn't get all that context. Your flow gets that context from the component, and the component is free to map it however they want to. So my guess is they're just grabbing that ID, putting it in their own attribute inside the component. And so what you need to find out is what that, I don't remember the document of it actually, but there should be a documentation of that component, what the naming convention they're looking for, so that the flow can work with that. That's what I'm guessing the problem might be.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I'll have to look into that. And yeah, I'll probably reach out to my buddies, Mark and the Wiz, see if they've messed with this yet in Flow. Yeah, it's just kind of an interesting thing because it was the first time I've actually delved into this. So, okay, cool. Who else has a question? No questions.
Has anyone heard of the App Stack? App Stack. If not, it's something that the Salesforce App Exchange team is doing. And I think they've done like 6 or 7 of these 30-minute webinars where they run through various customer and consultant app stacks. And it's basically their favorite App Exchange tools. It's a really high-level, quick run-through, and you can hear about, or anywhere from like 15 to 30 apps in the 30 minutes. I will copy paste a link to the one that was this last week. Full disclosure, I happen to be one of their guest speakers, which is how I learned about it as well. So I thought it was really good information quickly, talking about use cases and how these apps solve certain problems. So that might be something that you find beneficial when you're looking for solutions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
App Stack, nice.
And if you're on Twitter, you can search #MyStackRules, and you'll find all of the postings. It's kind of in the same vein as Demo Jam without the winner, but instead of from the partner's perspective, it's from the admin or I guess, yeah, the admin or developer's perspective, depending on which apps you're talking about. It's a good resource. Has anyone implemented anything new lately?
I'm working on a GeoPoint project, so we're looking to implement that. Right now, I don't have it in production yet, but it's in sandboxes that I've been playing around with it, and I really like it.
Very cool. And which vendor did you go with?
GeoPoint.
Oh, it is GeoPoint. Okay, because there's
Yeah.
others that are they're GeoPoint products, but they're called by other names. Okay, very cool.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Love me some GeoPoint.
What is GeoPoint?
Carly, do you want to explain that and what you're using it for? Give her a use case.
Yeah. GeoPoint is a geocoding app. So it takes your data and it runs it through a geocoding process. So it assigns the latitude and the longitude. And GeoPoint comes with a map tab or a map app. Hard to say, map app. That you can create data sets within in the map or shapes. You can outline territories, drawing shapes on a map, and it puts the data set, so all contacts within a certain mile radius. It creates pins on the map, so you can see them on a map easily, and you can easily add them to a campaign. You can mass assign them. You can create assignment plans, so anybody in certain territories can be assigned to a certain user, things of that nature. That's what we're using it for. We needed to be able to assign contacts to a specific user based on where they fell on the map in the United States. So I created shapes because we had to split some of the states up uniquely. So I created shapes of the various territories and then created assignment plans. And then if the contact falls within a certain shape, then it'll get assigned to a certain user. I think it does a lot of other things too, but that was our main use case.
And are your shapes based on zip code, or you just happen to look at a map and kind of ballpark it?
Yep, that's exactly it. I was literally given a map with a hand-drawn line across some of the states. So I just ballparked it.
I really like that. I really like that approach because years ago, I had territories that were across the U.S. that were based on zip code, and what a bear when the post office would divide up zip codes or add new zip codes, and trying to divide that up and restructure for 600 salespeople was a bit of a challenge. And so I really like that your use case is draw a shape on a map and let that run it.
For sure. I can't imagine handling it that way.
Oh, yeah, it was incredible. So with GeoPoint, do you also have the opportunity to say, okay, this service person or this salesperson is going to visit these 6 clients and have the tool tell you which order they should go in based on travel time and proximity? Like put some
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. We're not quite there yet. We may use it for that. And I don't know if like an admin user or a sales manager or somebody else would give a route like that to one of their salespeople. But I know that when they're logged in, they can create a route that way. So I think that capability is there, but we're not using it yet.
Very cool.
Yeah, one other really cool feature that they do have is the check-in and check-out. So it's kind of new to our company that we have kind of quote-unquote in the field reps that, our sales managers are here in the home office, but these guys are out on the road in another whole other part of the United States, and they want to be sure maybe that they're actually visiting these people that they say they are. So the check-in and check-out from their phone, if they're at a location, they can say, I'm checking in, and then when they leave, they check out, and it records it in Salesforce that they were physically there.
Is it an app?
Yes,
Okay.
in the App Exchange.
Okay.
I can post a link to it.
And there are a couple others that have the majority of that functionality. I don't know what the comparison is, but Map Anything is one, and I'm blanking on the other one.
There was one called Vision E, but they didn't have an automatic assignment tool for that. It was more basic, I think. And I think Map Anything you can use as a standalone product, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it does have a Salesforce integration. And I don't know if GeoPoint may be platform just on Salesforce.
Yeah, GeoPoint actually relies on external geo services, and hence it has limitations to those services. I think it's some kind of MapQuest API or Google or something like that. I don't remember. At one point we did run into limitations with them for how many requests we can make. But they do rely on external services being a package in Salesforce. They do have a pretty comprehensive API to be able to integrate with and do various interesting things. And the nice part about it is GeoPoint adds automatic fields for geolocation for you know, when you install it and you tell it which objects you want to map. So if you have objects or records that have addresses, for example, and you want to map this custom object and this account and maybe this contact or maybe some user or whatever, it will add fields to those objects with longitude, latitude. And then you can actually use other apps and other things in Salesforce and calculations of like proximity, for instance, of account proximity, which is a standard feature in Salesforce. So you can start leveraging some of that stuff without doing a lot of work. Because over time, they'll run some batches and will populate all of your millions of accounts, if you have them, with those values for you.
Great, thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. All right, we got about 12 minutes left. Who else?
I've got a high-level question, I guess. I'm starting to dig into Salesforce DX. I guess I don't really have a question. I'm curious if anybody on the call is using it and how their experience has gone so far with it, if they are.
We are using it, or at least I should say trying, at the organization where I'm kind of working with it. I don't know if other people on the call have other experiences. I can share some of what I found.
That'd be great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I've been working with sort of our org, which is fairly big monolith, to try to convert the development process into using DX. And I've been through a pilot with DX. It's been a while since I've been working with that technology. I'm kind of would say 100% stand behind the source-driven development. It's really a great shift that Salesforce is doing. That's something I wanted 10 years ago when I started working with Salesforce, but it was not available. So we always had to deal with ANT and metadata and all this clunky XML files, which makes a big difference whenever you want to do any kind of DevOps. If you're running a big organization like enterprise, and even if it's not that big, but if it's complex enough that requires source control and auditing and potential tracking of responsibilities, if you're in regulated environment like we are, for example, regulated by certain educational legal constraints, And when we deploy something to production, people are impacted, so we need to roll back quickly and find a mitigated plan. These source-driven development features and ability to deploy small chunks and things are really great. The unfortunate part of this is that there is no silver bullet of how you convert your org and your metadata into DX. It generally works on a small scale, like if you start doing small new projects, that's great, that don't have a lot of dependency. But what I find is that typically if I have dependencies on a metadata of model, like I need a bunch of objects, a bunch of custom fields, sometimes that gets very difficult. So my approach has been going slowly, step by step, breaking down on our monolith into a more manageable packages, into DX, source controlling them, and packaging that big monolith into a kind of a manageable application. Currently, Salesforce doesn't have that. It's kind of like starting to pilot, and it's going to be in beta in summer, I believe. There's a dependency management features that they're going to roll out. That will be a big help, where we could start making one package depend on another package. And that means that leads us to a regular source-driven development like we have in Java or Node or Swift or any other normal programming, where you could say, if I want to deploy this library, I need these other 15 libraries that it depends on. So we can define a configuration saying, hey, this package depends on these 5 other packages, so pull them down. So that makes deployment and dependency management, which is a big problem in Salesforce, a lot more solvable. And so the big work on the architect or developer or whoever runs with metadata, admin maybe, is to actually figure out how do you break your monolith, how do you break your metadata, meaning like, is it going to be an application-based? Is it going to be a model-based, right? Maybe you pull your all objects in one package. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, is get all the objects and all the fields in one package, get some other customizations like process builders in another package, and those may be broken out by functionalities like certain departments or things. It's kind of challenging for us. They call it a happy soup, which is our big orgs, right? Like everybody got one of those. So that breaking that soup is the key. It's a part of software engineering. How clever you get in breaking down those pieces.
Yeah, for sure. The good thing about what I'm dealing with is a very, very new org, so I think it might be maybe a little bit easier than what you're describing. Even though it's a complex org, it's brand new, so it's kind of helpful.
Yeah, if it's a new org and you don't have a ton of customizations, and also you don't depend on too many App Exchange packages, like Dupe Checker, particularly nasty one. Those dependencies will certainly be a hurdle to overcome, because they have various hooks into your org. And when you start pulling out your metadata, you're going to have to somehow scrape those dependencies out of it, because sometimes they catch on and you cannot push to your scratch orgs, and you have some other issues.
Yeah, that's good insight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great for the new apps, though. I mean, if you're building a new app that maybe all dependencies are within your control, like you're building new custom objects that will work with maybe an account or contact or something simple, then it's really works nicely, and you can build your own package for that app specifically. And as I see that this is kind of a sweet spot where you could start with, but then go in and try to break out your monolithic org into components. And that really depends on how much effort you have and knowledge about that data model and those customizations.
For sure, thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Igor.
Yeah, Igor, you are a wealth of information. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
No problem.
All right, we got about 6 minutes left. If anybody has, probably take one, maybe 2 more questions.
I just posted in the chat an opportunity that actually starts right after this call, Automation Hour. if you haven't had a chance to jump in and listen to some of those use cases and solutions, Lena out of Minnesota is going to be demoing her process automation solution for automating collaboration among our teams. So that I thought that might be interesting. I put the bit.ly in there too. So if you guys want to jump on that call, if you have the time, or if you want to register, and I think they record, so they would send you the recording afterwards. So there might be some nuggets in there for you.
Where do you register for this?
I put the bit.ly in the chat window.
Oh, okay.
You see it?
Yeah, got it.
And I think since they record their sessions, I think you can get to their previous sessions, and I believe they have them indexed on the website. You can also on Twitter. Here, let me grab their handle or their tag real quick. So you can search #AutomationHour. I'm scrolling through the chat. Are there any questions in here that we may have missed? No, looks like they're all resources. Fantastic.
Awesome. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we will wrap this up a little bit early, 3 minutes to be exact. So thank you, everyone, for your time, for your questions, your expertise. It's what makes the Salesforce community great. So we will look to see you on the next one. Like I said, look for this recording out on our community, our Trailblazer community page, as well as Twitter. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.